Good evening, everyone, and welcome to In the Know with Kat Bobineau. Today, my extra special guest is Dr. David Wilcox, who is a geologist, paleontologist, scientist, entrepreneur, just everything. I love it. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Philadelphia Eagles fan. So I know he was
Yes.
celebrating real a lot recently. Thank you, and welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. Um, uh,
Absolutely.
it's a wonderful opportunity, and I'm not a doctorate yet. I have my master's degree. Don't have the doctorate, so you can call me Dave.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well, I was introduced to Dave by a book that I randomly bought, and it was a book on Black STEM professionals. And I read the book. It's a graphic novel type book. Read it, saw it, read his history, and sent an email. And here we are.
Here we are. That was what, a month ago, right?
Yeah, about a month
Yeah.
ago. It was
Okay.
interesting how it all played out. And we share mutual friends. It was just it's a small world actually.
Yes.
So, Dave, I know your story from you and from reading the book, but can you share with the audience about how you got into geology and paleontology?
Sure. As a as a young child, my parents would take myself and my brother to museums and zoos and different events. Uh, and When I was 4, my parents took me to the American Museum of Natural History in New York City, and I saw the dinosaur display there. And I was blown away by a number of things. One, I had never seen a mounted dinosaur skeleton before. I
Hmm.
thought that I had been to the zoo and I thought elephants and giraffes and rhinos were the upper size limit of what animals could be. And
Mhm.
when I saw the nearly 90-foot mounted skeleton of Brontosaurus there in at the American Museum, I was just stunned. And I was even more stunned when I found out they had not one, but two floors of dinosaurs.
Yes.
So that was just mind boggling. And so ever since then, I've been hooked on dinosaurs, and the dinosaur interest, as I got older, branched out into an interest in fossils and the history of life in general.
Mhm.
Um, and After college, I got into geology. I got into what is known as environmental geology. Uh,
Okay.
that's what I do professionally. That's what I do as my job, and I'm an environmental geologist for an engineering and environmental consulting firm in downtown Philadelphia.
Gotcha. So, how amazing is it to fall in love with something at like age 4 and to continue going down that pathway? I mean, when you went to school, elementary, middle, high, did anything kind of any other science or anything else pop up that might have deviated you from it? That you enjoyed as
Oh,
well?
um, I did have an interest in sports, but
Mhm.
I enjoyed sports, but I was not that good at it. I mean, I was never on the varsity A team. You know, I was always the B or C team on
Mhm.
on the soccer field um, or on the track team. I enjoyed sports, but wasn't that great at it. As far as other interests, it always came back to geology and fossils. Fossils,
Okay.
volcanoes, earthquakes, Earth systems. I always had an interest in from that early age. I just had an interest in wanting to know how did the world get this way?
Yes.
Because The continents were not always in the position they are now. Um, North America and Africa used to be connected. Uh,
Right.
this is not the first Atlantic Ocean. This is like Atlantic Ocean 3.0, or something like Japan wasn't always there.
Mhm.
Antarctica used to be warm. North Africa used to have deserts, or used to have glaciers. So there's been some radical changes in climate and geography over geologic time, and I'm just intrigued by how those changes happened, why they happened, and we don't know of all the changes that did take place. So we're also
Mhm.
always trying to search for, what changes have we missed? Um, how many ice ages have there been? How many volcanic eruptions have there been? Uh, how many supercontinents have there been? Uh,
Yes. I
yeah,
think, I mean, and that's a really good breakdown of geology. So when we talk about geology, we're talking about geo, we're talking about the earth, we're talking about all things that make the earth, make it change, and there's so many components to it. I didn't realize that till I was an adult. I never took a geology class in college. I don't even think it was offered. But as an adult, and I started to learn more and more about geology, I realized how interesting it is. And so when you say you're an environmental geologist, can you break that down on what that is compared, and especially comparative to what other geology specialists can be?
yes. Environmental geologists are the geologists that study properties, real estate properties, commercial,
Hmm.
industrial, or residential properties, or even some farmland, for in advance of some kind of development. So when properties are bought and sold, um, they need an environmental assessment as required by insurance companies or attorneys or lenders or banks. Um, before a buyer puts out money to acquire a property, they oftentimes a buyer wants to see an environmental assessment, or at least get some environmental information before making that purpose, because they don't want to purchase um, contamination or something of that nature, or at least
Mm.
they want to know the risks going in. So
Right.
that's what environmental geologists. That's the principles behind what we do. Now we're often working alongside engineers or biologists or chemists to do research on properties that are being developed or bought or sold. Um, in terms of day-to-day work, we do field work. We watch a drill rig um, drill borings, soil borings, or rock borings into the
Mhm.
property that's being studied to ascertain what is in the subsurface. Um, we may watch an excavation and make observations of excavations. And again, we have our eye on what is in the subsurface that can affect how a property gets developed, or can affect how construction may proceed.
Wow. I've actually gone on a survey like that, but it wasn't, I was on the biology side. So it was more of the animals and the plants that's in this area. Are they endangered? Do they need to be moved? Things like that. And I guess I never even considered the geology part of what might be going on underground or, in the soil. So it's really cool to get a different view of probably the same type of things I'm looking at from a different angle.
Yeah, yeah. There are wetland scientists in the company I work for, and they do the kind of biologic work that you just described.
Mhm.
But in terms of the subsurface, um, again, it's going. we have the future use of the property in mind. So
Mhm.
the depth to groundwater, the thickness of the soil layer, um, how deep is solid bedrock versus how deep is weathered bedrock.
Mm.
Is the property a wetlands? Is there historic fill material on the property? Is there demolition debris? This is the kind of information that environmental geologists gather um, when they're writing their report about a site.
Well, I first I want to say thank you to everyone watching us live, and if you have comments or questions, go ahead and put them in the chat. We already have one question from Christina. Christina asked, "What's the most interesting thing that you have found?"
Interesting thing. Um,
And that might be more towards your love for the dinosaurs. But I don't want to pick your thing. But what's the most
yeah.
interesting thing
Okay.
you
I was this was when was this? This was back in 2005 ish. I was out in Wyoming, southwestern Wyoming, and I was on a fossil hunting expedition and found fossils of a partial skeleton of a primitive carnivore from
found?
47 million years ago. So this is 18 million years after the dinosaurs. Um, and this was a primitive carnivore about the size of a pit bull. But this was at a time when the differentiated the differentiation between dogs and cats hadn't happened yet. So
Hmm.
dogs and
Okay.
cats had not become distinct carnivores at that time. So
So it's
47
something.
million years ago, there were a whole suite of primitive carnivores on all of the continents that were neither dog or cat, and this was one of them.
Did were you able to name it, or did it already have a name?
It already had a name. It's called Patriofelis,
Hmm.
and I found the parts of the skeleton that were in the rock were the right lower jaw, um, one of the cheekbones, half the pelvic girdle, a few, both ankles, one tailbone, and one upper arm bone, and some isolated backbones, isolated rib fragments. Yes.
Hmm.
And that skeleton is in the collection of the American Museum of Natural History in New
Oh,
York. So it's
wow.
not on display. It's not
Okay.
on display, but it's in the back rooms in
Okay.
one of the rooms that hold fossil mammals, probably a carnivore section. And that's where it is today.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people realize that what you see in a museum is just like one part of the entire collection.
Oh, yeah. It's like 1%.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
like
it's like
1%.
1%.
I've I've
Yeah.
had the privilege of going into the back rooms of one of the museums out here, and oh my god, the specimens, the artifacts, the things that they have that the public doesn't get to see is amazing. But yeah, so what else have you found? I know you and I have talked about some of the digs that you've been on. Can you share what you have, where you were, and what you found?
I've In 2019, I was fortunate enough to be part of an expedition out of the museum in Seattle to go to Montana, and I volunteered on the expedition for a few days because they had discovered the Tufts Love T Rex
Hmm.
in northern Montana. So I was one of the many people volunteering to excavate that specimen. Um, that the skull was excavated before I got the year before I got there, so I
Mm.
did not see the skull in the ground. But I was that specimen. The skull is now on display at the Natural History Museum in Seattle, Washington.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
So what were you able to dig up? What did you
I
see in the ground?
was I was able to dig up to work on one of the belly ribs and one of the neck bones. Tyrannosaurus had 10 neck bones. Humans have seven.
Hmm.
Tyrannosaurus had 10. I was working on one of the middle neck bones and also one of the a pair of the belly ribs. So carnivorous dinosaurs had a rib cage at the front of their belly that was loosely attached to the side ribs. So they had like two rib cages. So
Hmm.
the part of your body that you would call your tummy, they had they had a rib basket, a floating rib basket in that part of their body to tighten up their tummy.
I
And
was just about to say, well, what was it for? Yeah, what the floating rib? What was that for?
yeah, that was to tighten up the belly a little bit, keep it from sagging, and it may have had other uses, um, but I, these belly ribs are probably as thick as a broom handle, so they weren't
Hmm.
huge bones, but
Mm-hmm.
there were a lot of them in an adult specimen.
Okay. And so how long does it take to dig out a bone like that?
Um, One belly rib could take all day.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. When you
Okay.
see when you see a dinosaur specimen in a museum, um, it most likely took a number of summers to get that specimen out of the ground. So 3, 4, 5 years to get a specimen out of the rock and into the museum is kind of normal.
Hmm.
You have to be patient. It doesn't all happen in one summer.
Is summer the only time that they do a dig?
It's spring and summer.
Okay.
When it's too cold, it's too hard to work there. Plus, in the winter months and the fall and the spring, the professors that are in charge of that excavation, they're teaching. They're teaching class at the university or college, so they can't be out there in the desert digging this up. So that's why most excavations take place during the warm months.
Okay. I mean, that definitely makes sense. I don't think
Yeah.
most people realize the amount of work that goes into removing a specimen. So as you said, a 90-foot was it a brontosaurus you
It
said?
was a brontosaurus. It's still there at the American Museum.
Yeah. How much effort do you think that took to get out?
um, I could look it up, but
Mhm.
I would assume it took several years, and I
Yes.
would assume 20 people might have been working on it at any one time or more.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay. So
because
I'm pretty
they
sure.
found a lot of it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
So I'm pretty sure people would wonder, how do you volunteer to get be a part of a dig?
Um, well, there are dinosaur digs going on in many of the western states,
Hmm.
and these expeditions are started by universities and geologic surveys out west, and they need volunteers to do some of the work quite often. And if you want to volunteer, you can just ask your local university geology department out there in dinosaur country if they need help.
And you're saying the west from you. Like I'm
I,
on
I'm
the west coast and I'm like,
You're
I
on the
don't think
west coast.
things aren't happening here, right? That's more
Oh,
up
yeah,
north
they
in like
prob
Wyoming.
there's dinosaur excavations going on throughout the summer in most of the western states somewhere.
Hmm.
Um, and there's even some uh, private landowners out west that you pay them for the opportunity to dig.
Yeah. All
So
right. They
so
making
if
fun
if
money
you want
any
to go
kind of
that
way.
route, I mean, they're not going to let you camp out there all summer, but if you want to go out there for a day or two and flex your muscles, digging up some fossils, you just go on the internet, start doing some searching, and to see which which private quarries will allow people to visit, um, and which universities need help in the summer.
Hmm. That is interesting. I don't think most people would consider that as an opportunity because we are always told how careful you have to be. You have to be
You have to be
someone who
careful. Yeah,
knows the work with a little brush, and you're busting away the dust. You can't, don't hit things too hard. So
right,
I always figured
right.
that was like you already had to be in school, you already had to be in the field to be able to volunteer.
Well, some there are some that'll some institutions that'll let you volunteer as more or less a beginner. Um,
Mm,
you have to ask around,
mhm.
but yeah, you do have to be safe. You're uh, driving on rough roads. It's hot, it's
Mhm.
dry. You got to bring water with you. You have to have a first aid kit. If you're sensitive to heat or aridity, or if you're afraid of snakes or spiders or something, that's something to consider. Bring plenty of water. You have to bring supplies with you. You need
Right.
more than a cell phone and a set of car keys. You got to prepare. So yes,
Understandable,
yes,
understandable.
a lot of homework takes place before you start digging up some fossils.
Right. Okay. And so I as I was reading about you, there was an animal that you did your research on for your master's degree. Can you talk to us about that?
Yes, my master's degree was about the North American, uh, an extinct North American rhinoceros called Aphalops. And Aphalops lived, there are there's three recognized Aphalop species
Mm,
that live from about 18 to 5 million years ago. Um, and it was a species that lived with other rhino species as well. So it wasn't the only rhino of that time period in North America. So I I measured specimens of that rhino, many of them at the American Museum.
hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's interesting. I don't think well, I know for me, I don't like to speak for other people, but I did not know that there was a species of rhino that existed in North America.
Oh, there were many. Maybe how many species of North American rhinos are there? Maybe over 20.
Hmm. Okay.
So yeah, so North America had plenty of rhinos up until about 5 million years ago when they went extinct. Now,
Wow.
the Aphalops, the rhino I was studying, it was about an adult Aphalops, was probably about the size of an African black rhino. So it
Oh
was a
wow.
big,
Big.
yeah, it was
Yeah.
a big herbivore. Now,
Mhm.
Aphalops did not have a nasal horn.
Hmm.
In fact,
Okay.
most fossil rhinos were hornless, and
Okay.
Aphalops was one of the hornless ones.
Interesting. All right. So, I mean, I think I know the answer to this question, but I would love for a geologist to explain it. So, how did we have rhinoceros here and in Africa?
Well, rhinos were in Europe as well and Asia as well. So in the geologic past, there were rhinos in North America, Europe, and Asia and Africa.
Okay.
So at one time, North America and Europe were connected through Greenland. So there could be an exchange from northern European species into North America and the reverse. That's
Okay.
before the Atlantic Ocean completely scissored its way open.
Yes. So that was,
Yeah,
would that be considered Pangea, or was that a
that was
different time frame than
that
Pangea?
was after Pangea, but
Okay.
before the full separation of the continents had completed itself.
Okay. All right. See, I only know about Pangea and now. I don't we don't get taught about the middle passage between Pangea and now.
There's a whole lot going on.
So with the Atlantic Ocean, did that just kind of carve its way through like how we see the Grand Canyon, but much stronger detail?
um, no, the Atlantic Ocean opened up by way of the Mid Atlantic Ridge becoming active. So
Oh.
that double mountain chain that's down the middle of the what is now down the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, um, that's what started the opening. When all the continents were together, that crack started opening up, and it is still active today.
Okay. It's still active
Hello?
today. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Wow.
So the Atlantic Ocean did not open up at the same rate in all areas. So South America and Africa pulled away from each other before North America and Europe pulled away.
Hmm.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. I don't know. I'm trying to imagine it, but that's a lot. That's a lot of information at one time, but that's really cool
Yes.
to learn about. Yeah. I feel like I get to learn a lot more about geology as an adult. And it started with a trip to New Zealand with
Oh.
our mutual friend, Dr. White, and her pointing out some of the things. So we went up this really big mountain that we actually drove up because it was, I think you can hike it, but we weren't doing all that. So we drove up. But at the very top of that mountain, you saw itty bitty seashells embedded in the rock.
Hmm.
And, getting this, knowing that something I had to drive up used to be underwater
Right.
is crazy, and it's like,
Yeah.
how do these things happen?
Well, there's many areas on land where you can find marine fossils because oceans once covered those lands.
Yeah.
The very first fossils I found, I think I was in like eighth or ninth grade, were seashells in the middle of Pennsylvania. So
Hmm.
that's 300 miles from the Atlantic Ocean. So it's a
Yes.
long way from an ocean, but
Right.
just on the side of the Pennsylvania Turnpike, there it was. Yeah,
That is,
I saw a good rock outcrop, and it appeared to be safe. There's the shoulder of the road appeared to be wide enough to stop, and I asked my dad if he could pull over, and he pulled over onto the shoulder of the road, and 5 minutes later, I busted open a rock, and there were like 25 seashells inside it.
wow.
Yeah,
I'm gonna say kudos to dad for pulling over. I feel like my dad
right.
been like, "On the road? No, we're not doing that. We're gonna drive." So I
Yeah.
kudos to dad for pulling over.
Yes, kudos to dad. Mom and dad were very supportive of our science education and any interest we had. So my brother's now an astrophysicist, so they
What?
supported his interest in astrophysics, and they supported my interests in geology and paleontology, and part of that support was taking us to museums, and part of
Mhm.
that support was also stopping at the side of the road during family trips and seeing what you get.
Right. Oh
Yeah.
man, I love that. I love that. I love that idea. I I have my 4-year-old I like to take everywhere to the museums and stuff like that. He's more into running than anything else. Like I'd be
Oh,
like, "Ooh,
okay.
look at this." And he's pew, gone. You know?
Okay.
I was like, "It's okay. You'll figure it out." But I think that's
Okay.
really cool that they allowed that and supported you guys in all this. And an
Yeah.
astrophysicist, that's you guys took a lot of schooling way
Yes,
past
it
me.
did.
Way, way past me. But I love that. So I know that you went into geology because of paleontology. And
Right.
so for anyone listening, what is the difference between geology and paleontology?
Geology or paleontology is the study of ancient life through fossils.
Okay.
That's paleontology. Geology is the study of the earth, its systems, its composition.
Okay. So
Yeah.
is paleontology considered a subset of geology?
Paleontology is biology on a geologic timescale.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So it's like biology with an exponent on it.
Okay.
Biologists study living things that are currently living, or at least current species.
Right.
Right. Paleontologists study ancient species.
Okay.
So, like a biologist will study lions and tigers and leopards because they're living now. Paleontologists would study the various kinds of cats that have been around for the last 30 million years,
Hmm.
some of
Okay.
which were saber toothed, some of which were not.
Right. So on the biology side, like when you take in biology, are excuse me, majoring in biology, you
Yes,
might take botany or things like that to kind of understand how animals and plants interact and how they are in their environment. Since you're studying ancient species, you also have to take geological classes, right, to understand where they were living and the things that was around them at the same time. Is that correct?
that's true. That's
Okay.
true. A paleontologist has taken biology courses, and they've also taken geology courses so they can read the rocks and know what kind of ancient environments or sequence of ancient environments were where they were.
Okay. So let's talk about your favorite dinosaur. What is your favorite dinosaur?
My favorite, my favorite dinosaur is Kentrosaurus,
Oh,
and
okay.
that was a stegosaurine dinosaur from East Africa. Lived during the late Jurassic time period, and it looked similar to Stegosaurus, but Kentrosaurus, uh, it had plates and spikes. So
Hmm.
from the neck to the middle of the back were some slender plates, and then from the back down to the tail were a series of long spikes, and there were spikes coming off each shoulder. So it had sort of an equal number of plates and spikes.
Okay. So
Yeah.
why is that your favorite?
I like the idea of plates and spikes on the same animal. I think that's pretty exotic.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that is a really that is definitely one dinosaur I've never heard of. And we'll have to Google. I'll have to look that one up because
Okay. It was discovered in the 1920s in Tanzania.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I had bought my son a book about the um, evolution of studying dinosaurs, and how it went from word of mouth with indigenous cultures to scientists picking up things and saying, "What is this?" and "What does this belong to?" And the misconceptions, the idea that what is it? That they were not related to creatures of now, but now there's a lot more of understanding. It was like the in between almost. Well, I don't know if it's the in between. You can tell me. Dinosaurs, lizards, chickens. What is the mix here of that?
Okay. Uh, Birds evolved from small carnivorous dinosaurs.
Okay.
So birds are dinosaurs. They
Right.
are, yes, they are modern dinosaurs. Um,
Okay.
so when you look at a chicken, you're looking at a modern dinosaur. You look at a turkey, you're looking at a modern dinosaur.
Yes.
Lizards are reptiles in that they have scales and claws and they lay a shelled egg.
Mm-hmm.
So they are reptiles, but lizards did not evolve from dinosaurs. Yeah. So
Okay.
dinosaurs are the reptiles that walked with an upright posture. So in dinosaur hip structure, the thigh bones are directly under the hips. They're not splayed to the side like lizards and turtles do. They have that, lizards and turtles have that sort of push-up posture.
And at the waddle kind
Right. No, dinosaurs didn't waddle. There
of.
was no
Okay.
waddling because they had a hip structure that was more efficient. So
Mm.
they could walk like a mammal in that their hips were directly over their thigh bones and not suspended between their thigh bones. So
Okay.
dinosaurs, in short, dinosaurs are the reptiles that had erect posture.
Okay. So reptiles and dinosaurs were pretty much on the same time frame.
Dinosaurs are a subset of reptiles.
Okay, so what came first was the
There were
chicken or the
reptiles
egg?
before there were reptiles before there were dinosaurs.
Okay. So it was
Yes.
reptiles,
It
dinosaurs,
was
birds.
reptiles, yes.
Okay. So
Yeah.
wobbly walkers to straight
Wobbly
walkers
walkers,
to
yeah, there were wobbly
feathered
walking
walkers.
reptiles, and from those early wobbly walkers came dinosaurs on one branch, crocodiles and alligators on another branch, lizards on another, turtles on
Mm,
another.
okay.
They're all
So
reptiles.
yeah. Okay. Well, see, learning something new every day. I love that. Um, how do you feel about the vocalization of dinosaurs? So, when I was reading that book, it was talking about how earlier scientists equated the sounds that dinosaurs probably made to closer to lizards. But now, in modern time, they equate the sound that dinosaurs probably made to birds.
Hmm. Um, I just don't know. Certainly they made sounds.
You're right.
Um, and they certainly had large enough nasal passages to make different ranges of sounds at low and high frequency. Um, as to what it sounded like, uh,
Yes, that's
don't
hard.
know.
I get that. Yeah,
Don't
I
know.
was just, I'm more of a person who I take the information in and I'm just like you. I have no idea. But okay, that's what we're
Mhm.
considering. That's what we're considering. So yeah.
Yeah, I really can't comment. I really can't comment on sounds and dinosaurs. I just don't know. I just don't know enough about it.
Oh, understandable. So, what do you do outside of geology and paleontology?
I like to illustrate
Hmm,
with pen and pencil, and
okay.
I like to go to the movies. Yeah, I like going to the theater.
Okay.
Yeah,
That sounds good. And I know I saw you with all your Philadelphia Eagles outfit
yeah,
on last weekend.
yes. I was in the thick crowd with the masses. Yes, yelling with the masses.
Oh my
A lot of
goodness.
fun.
I believe it. I believe it. I was at home. I
Oh, okay.
was like, yeah, I was at home. I was like, oh yeah. If I was in
Yeah,
Philadelphia, if I was where the team was playing, maybe I'd have been outside. But you know, I was at home.
yeah.
But it was really good to see, and I'm glad that you got to see your team win.
Yes, it was a lot of fun. A lot of fun. It was good to see the team win. I'm old enough to remember, the 1970s when we weren't that good, and it was some hard times.
Right.
We had some bad teams back in decades past. We had some hard times. So I remember the lean years. So it makes these good years feel that much better.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's good. That's good. So what do you see what is next for you? What do you see happening for you in the next 5 or so years?
I'll continue to go out west and join uh, different expeditions to dig up fossils, either dinosaurs or ancient mammals.
Okay.
Um, I'd love to. I'd love to get on an expedition that's working on a shovel tusked elephant or a four tusked elephant. I
Okay.
would like to dig up that kind of a specimen.
Where are those located?
Uh, New Mexico, Nevada, California,
Oh,
Colorado, Nebraska.
so yeah,
Yeah,
really out this way. See, I
yeah,
was thinking
really.
you were
Yeah,
gonna
out
say
your way.
another
Yeah.
I thought you were gonna say a continent, but no, right here
No,
in
no,
North
right
America.
here. Yeah, right here.
Wow, okay. That'll be
Yeah,
really
I
cool.
think four tusked elephants are so cool.
Yeah, I think we have it's not a complete I think it's not even an actual skeleton, but it's just a replica in our Oakland Museum. And it's just talking about how we have species like that here, which is really
Hmm.
cool. And have you ever been to the La Brea tar pits?
I drove by it in a cab on the way to the airport. Yeah,
Okay.
yes, I've not been in. I've not been in the park itself.
Mhm.
It's on my it's on my top 10 list to visit, to
Okay.
actually go into the facility and see the museum and walk around. Yeah, that getting to La Brea is on my list.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. I
Yeah.
went there this summer for the first time, which is
Oh
crazy.
yeah.
I live in California. You'd think I would have been before, but no, I went for the first time this summer. It was pretty cool though. I had a good time.
Good, good. They their collections are incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I was so used to what you see in the movies, like all this big old tar and don't fall in, and other things are happening, and it was just like bitty bitty puddles of tar, and I was like, oh okay, and it was all gated, you couldn't get close, and I was like, oh, the movies really tricked me. I thought it was much bigger than this. That was yeah.
Well, in the
So
past they were much bigger.
oh yeah, yeah. I mean, I
Yeah.
saw they have all the pictures of the digs and how deep they went, and
Hmm.
yeah. But today, tiny little bubbles of
Yeah.
art coming up. That's still cool though. Well, we're getting towards the end. I don't want to hold you too long because I know you're on the East Coast. So I wanted to give you an opportunity to say any last things you might want to say and what you're looking forward to this year.
Oh. Well, if there's parents out there that are listening, tuning in, if uh, if your son or daughter likes science, take them to museums, take them to parks, um, see if there's a geologic or mineral dig or fossil dig near your hometown. Take the children there. You know, there's more going on than sports, so STEM is great.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, go to the museums, what the exhibits are from season to season.
I agree. And with Museums for All, there's such an opportunity to go for cheap or free. And don't forget your local library. They always have
Right,
tickets to go to these museums. So make sure you visit your local library.
right.
Yeah. All right. Any last words?
Um,
Yeah. How can they find you? How can they find more information about you?
I have a website, Dinosaurs, Fossils, and Adventures, and there's pictures of different fossils and different museums on that website. And there's actually a list of museums on that website that
Oh,
have dinosaurs and mounted skeletons.
wow. Okay. Cool.
Yeah, and
Let's
there's
see.
there's natural history museums in most states.
Yes.
So chances are you live somewhat close to one of them.
Here we go. There is your page. So if you're anyone's watching this tonight or watching it later, here's the page of Dinosaurs, Fossils, and Adventures. Make sure you go check it out. Look at Dr. Wilcox out here in the middle of nowhere. Pretty cool. Well, thank you so much for being a part of my show today. Thank you for giving us all this wonderful information, for sharing your adventures, sharing your favorite dinosaurs. I really appreciate. And thank you for tuning in so late from the East Coast.
So thank you for having me. It's an honor to be on your show.
I really appreciate it. Right, everyone, thank you all for watching who watched live tonight. I appreciate all of you and the comments and questions. Thank you.